There's a particular kind of silence that arrives after healing, not the silence of loss, not the silence of waiting. A different one, the silence of no longer needing anyone to notice. For a long time, you imagined healing would come with some kind of announcement. A moment where people would look at you and say, "You're different now. I can see it." You wanted that moment. Not out of vanity, but because for so long your worth had been measured by what others reflected back to you. Their attention told you that you mattered. Their recognition told you that your pain had been real, that your effort had counted for something. So healing, in your mind, needed a witness. But healing rarely arrives with an audience. It arrives in ordinary rooms, in quiet mornings, in moments so small they don't seem to belong in any story at all. The day you didn't check your phone, the conversation you let go without needing the last word, the silence you didn't fill with an explanation. None of those moments had anyone watching, and somewhere along the way you stopped minding that. At first, this felt strange. You caught yourself wanting to explain your growth to people who hadn't asked. You wanted the ones who once saw you struggling to see you standing differently now. You wanted proof to reach them. But some people will never update the picture they have of you. They still see the version who apologized too quickly, the version who waited by the phone, the version who tried to earn her place in every room she entered. You used to feel responsible for correcting that picture. Now, you simply let it exist, unfinished in their mind, because your growth doesn't live in their perception. It lives in you, whether they notice it or not. That realization can feel oddly lonely at first. You spent so much time being seen through survival that being unseen through peace almost feels like disappearing. If no one comments on how far you've come, did it even happen? There's a strange grief in that question. You're not grieving the person you left behind. You're grieving the idea that you're becoming needed to be witnessed to count. That idea lived in you for years, quietly shaping how you measured every version of yourself. You used to believe that if you healed loudly enough, someone would finally understand what it had cost you. So you carried your growth like something to present, a little proof, offered in small moments, hoping someone would notice and say the words you needed to hear. But maybe growth was never meant to be performed. Maybe the most honest kind of change is the one that doesn't ask to be recognized. The one that simply exists in how you move through your days, the pause before reacting, the boundary you no longer need to justify, the calm that doesn't ask permission to stay. You don't rehearse your healing for anyone anymore. You don't showcase your boundaries to prove they exist. You don't perform strength to convince someone you're no longer breakable, and you don't perform fragility to remind someone you once were. You simply are, quieter, steadier, and no longer waiting for applause. There's a particular kind of freedom in that. For years, your sense of worth depended on being witnessed. Now it depends on something else entirely, a private, internal steadiness that doesn't need translation. You still remember who you were, the one who over-explained, the one who searched every silence for meaning, the one who believed devotion meant sacrificing herself to be understood. You don't judge her. She simply hadn't learned yet that recognition isn't the same as worth. She thought that if enough people saw her effort, it would finally feel real. She didn't know yet that some of the most important things a person carries are never seen by anyone at all, and that this doesn't make them less true. Now you carry something different. Not indifference. You still feel deeply, still care, still notice the weight of certain memories. But you no longer need someone to confirm that weight was real. You know that it was real, that knowing doesn't need an audience. Sometimes you think about how much energy you once spent hoping someone would notice your effort. The late nights spent making sense of things alone, the mornings you got up anyway, the conversations you didn't have because you finally understood they wouldn't change anything. No one saw most of that. And for the first time, that's not a source of sadness. It's simply the shape your healing took, private, unannounced, built in rooms no one else ever entered. There are still days when old habits return. A part of you still glances toward the door, half expecting someone to walk in and finally say the thing you once needed to hear. But that moment passes faster now. It doesn't undo what you've built. It's just an old reflex, visiting briefly before it leaves again. Maybe that's the quietest part of becoming yourself again. Not the moment someone finally sees you clearly, but the moment you stop needing them to. Your growth doesn't ask to be witnessed. It only asks to be lived. It asks you to keep choosing the smaller, steadier version of yourself, even when no one is there to notice the choosing. It asks you to trust the quiet evidence of your own days, the ease that wasn't there before, the peace that no longer feels foreign, the version of you who no longer performs for anyone's approval. And perhaps that's enough to keep becoming, quietly, without needing anyone standing there to confirm it happened. Some things are real simply because you lived them, not because someone else saw.